Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the kind words. And uh, at the outset, I'm extremely thankful to the entire organizing committee, Dr. Sanjeev Phatak, Pratap, Dr. Ashish for this opportunity. And after a wonderful oration by Dr. Bansi on type 1, a type 1 man, I'll say. So let's shift gears to something else in type 2. And can we predict and prevent C events in diabetes? Do we have? Yeah. So let me tell you that diabetes is no more a metabolic disease. It is more of a vascular disease with huge amount of vasoconstriction, growth promotion, a prothrombotic state with a lot of inflammation, which leads on to endothelial dysfunction, and the entire endothelium health is impaired. You don't know that diabetes is almost 20 years ago, there was Steph Heppner's article reviewing diabetes and CVD, and he said it's a CVD risk equivalent. It still stands true because today we know that morbidity and mortality in type 2 diabetes is close to 2 to 3 times as compared to the non-diabetic population, maybe because of many of these patients having physical inertia. Most of them are obese or they are overweight, they have high blood pressure, they tend to have bad lipids, all contributing towards higher cardiovascular disease. So when a patient with type 2 gets a coronary event, it is again little different. It could be a simple silent ischemia, it could be a multivessel disease coming up for the first time at the presentation. These patients, they tend to have more complication. My son-in-law is a cardiologist, interventional state-of-art work he has been doing in Delhi, and he tells me whenever we have the earliest symptom, many times patient may not be symptomatic at all. Moment you do the angiography, it comes out to be a severe triple vessel disease or maybe a chronic total obstruction, and till then patient has been absolutely all right. Many of these patients at the time of a coronary event might present to a diabetic ketoacidosis. They require, of course, intervention, but these are complex angioplasties if you compare it versus non-diabetic population, and many of them will require bypass surgery. While one study said that if it is diabetes, it has to be something like CBG. Well, that time we didn't have the standard care the way we have today, and today 3 vessels, 4 vessel, 5 vessel angioplasties are a common practice in type 2 diabetes. So it is not a dictum that if you have diabetes, you are bound to have CABG. But definitely these patients are at a much greater risk for cardiovascular disease. And it is said that if you're talking about 3-point MACE or myocardial infarction, stroke or heart failure, all these events are going to be 2 to 3 times higher in patient with type 2 diabetes. And as Bansi has shown in DCCT, even in UKPDS trial, here is a meta-analysis of all trials in type 2 diabetes, ACCORD, ADVANCE, UKPDS and VEDIT trial. And all these trials said that in spite of tight glycemic control, maybe close to 6.8, you might avert microangiopathy. Definitely there is going to be an improvement in retinopathy. You may check progression towards diabetic nephropathy, but cardiovascular events may not go immediately down because of 2 reasons. One is that intense hypoglycemia. Unfortunately, not many patients are on pumps and CGM. It may still come on the cost of hypoglycemia. And second, that for getting CV benefits, 3-point MACE aversion in terms of CV death reduction, you probably require 10 to 15 years. That is why EPIC study and DCCT post-trial 20 years data is now showing that there are going to be benefits even in terms of MI prevention or reduction in CV mortality or even all-cause mortality, which was not very apparent once these trials were done for 5 to 6 years. So UKPDS told you that 20 years, well, there could be some benefit in terms of aversion of CV mortality. ACCORD, ADVANCE and VEDIT trials again I think they fail to show immediate benefits in terms of macrovascular events. So possibly it is not alone the glycemic control which goes a long way. You need to have better diet, exercise. There has to be a total cessation of smoking, a better control of dyslipidemia and high blood pressure on one end, of course the glycemic control on the other end, so as to get benefits in terms of CV risk reduction. And manifestation of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease could be first ACS, it could be stable or unstable angina, history of myocardial infarction, coronary or peripheral need for revascularization, stroke, TIA or PAD also, and it could be a sudden acute coronary event landing up with maybe a cardiovascular death. So the sole core defect in setting of type 2 diabetes we know is insulin resistance. These patients, they tend to have hyperinsulinemia quite early in the course of the disease, and when it comes to severe insulin resistance, their insulin signaling is also getting impaired. On one hand, they have a higher tendency for atherogenicity, and anti-atherogenic mechanisms through PI3 kinase are also impaired. There is a lesser nitric oxide production. So all together lead on to an imbalance promoting cardiovascular events in these patients. And unfortunately, as our ethnicity, we as Southeast Asian patients are at a much greater risk of cardiovascular disease, not only because of the fact that we tend to develop diabetes almost 2 decades earlier, we tend to have at a much lower BMI, we tend to have very high insulin levels quite early in the course of the disease, and we have a very rapid form of beta cell characteristics, dyslipidemia, unfortunately very low adiponectin levels and all the markers of inflammation being on the higher side, all contributing towards a much higher cardiovascular risk, a much premature cardiometabolic risk in our patient with type 2 diabetes. And this is a comparison versus UK wide population. You could see that not only we are developing diabetes early at a lower BMI, but we are also having a poorer course in the long run with a much premature cardiovascular disease. So overall, this iCare diabetes survey, which was a tertiary care OPD center surveys, has shown that 95% of people with type 2 diabetes, they have additional CVD risk factor, but mind it, it is a long-standing diabetes and the poorer glycemic control which possibly contributes as a significant CV risk other than hypertension, dyslipidemia, smoking. And even if you go through this India survey, which did a risk stratification for coronary artery disease, that whether you have a family history of premature coronary artery disease, a prior history of stroke, a advancing age, longer duration of diabetes, and impaired glucose and hypertension, a smoking status, everything said that there is a higher risk for coronary artery disease, which will very, very strongly and positively correlate if you do an angiography, a conventional angiography or a CT angiography. These patients are likely to have a significant coronary artery disease. Even the Mark study said that even if you are asymptomatic at 45 years, as you move towards 55 and 65, it is here that your overall CV risk keeps increasing year after year, and in 10 years it goes significantly high. And this study published in 2013 in Journal of American Cardiology said that 10-year risk for CVD in patients with newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes. They are absolutely new onset, but still they carry a much higher risk for MI, for stroke and fatal CVD after 5 to 10 years. That means 10 years down the line, moment you have onset of type 2 diabetes, you are at a greater risk. That means this cardiovascular risk probably building up even before the onset of the disease, and the CVD risk in new onset type 2 diabetes, if you compare versus the general population, and if it is stratified by age, for every 10 years there is going to be a much greater risk for all cardiovascular event in patients, those who have type 2 diabetes versus those who are normal glucose tolerant patient. And here is a curve for both women and men at 10 years. Not only they are at a greater risk, but another important fact that females, they tend to have much higher cardiovascular risk and cardiovascular mortality moment they are post-menopause. Till 40 to 49 years, it is male those who are at a greater risk. Moment a woman is in post-menopausal age, this cardiovascular risk actually goes much higher. So there is a greater risk for CV disease in people with type 2 diabetes. 1 in 13 they have stroke, 1 in 10 will have MI, 1 in 7 will have heart failure. Actually it is 1 in 5, and 1 in 5 will have coronary artery disease, and 1 in 3 will have any manifestation of cardiovascular disease. That means every third patient is at a greater risk for overall cardiovascular risk. And we know that early days we said that is only ischemic disease, a atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease based mechanism contributing towards CV death. But now we know even microangiopathy like diabetic cardiomyopathy also predisposes to heart failure, what could be initially a preserved heart failure, subsequently a mid-range, and subsequently they manifest as systolic heart failure, because this comes independently of coronary artery disease because of shared mechanism like all persistent hypoglycemia leads on to advanced glycation end products. There is going to be an autonomic dysfunction, a myocardial dysfunction, increase in RAS excretion, and that subsequently increases the risk for cardiomyopathy as well as microangiopathy in these patients. So it is true that 46%, almost 15% of a patient who might have type 2 diabetes over 10 years are at a greater risk of developing preserved heart failure or maybe a mid-range heart failure, which is early days we said it is a left ventricular diastolic dysfunction. And I told you all earlier trials, they have shown a reduction in microangiopathy. Only trial, which is maybe UKPDS post trial, another 20 years follow-up, has shown that there was also preservation or reduction in CV death in these patients, those who had earlier achieved an HbA1c close to 7. Almost 15 years ago, when this publication came, it was said that national goal is to reduce premature cardiovascular disease in India by 2025. Today in 2025, we still unfortunately stand at a much higher cardiovascular risk than was predicted. So I think it is high time we must try to do a risk assessment in all patients with type 2 diabetes, considering their age, their gender, if they have a family history of coronary artery disease, whether they are smoker, whether they have hypertension, whether they have a dyslipidemia, and there are risk score engines which are available. The predictors of high CV risk could be a long duration of diabetes, a poorer glycemic control both way, hypo and chronic hypoglycemia contributes towards higher cardiovascular risk. Presence of MASLD or NASH or cirrhosis could again add to cardiovascular risk. OSA is definitely going to be associated with much higher cardiovascular risk. Microangiopathy, even if you are simply a microalbuminuria positive, you are not only at a greater risk of developing CKD, but also a cardiovascular disease, and of course an erectile dysfunction, which in clinical practice it is said that they are equivalent to triple vessel disease. And then there are markers of biomarkers are also available. These markers are HSCRP or high sensitivity troponin, which is easily done these days by point of care. Look for NT-proBNP, do a coronary artery calcium score. Even if you are not doing a conventional angiography, look for their carotid edema, media thickness, and plaque assessment either by a Doppler or a MRA. Look for their ABI, which you can do right at the bedside in your clinic, and if required, you might do a silent ischemia assessment also. Silent ischemia assessment possibly for every patient may not give you the results, because diet study said that it may not avert overall CV death in all the patients, but those patients who are at a greater risk, they must be evaluated either by a stress echo, a dobutamine or an adenosine test, or it could be simply a treadmill with an echo, it could be a stress thallium or a conventional angiography to look for their cardiovascular status. Various scores are available. Typical conventional, we have been talking about Framingham score, which takes into account the age, the cholesterol, whether you are a smoker or no, the ratio of total versus HDL, your systolic and diastolic blood pressure, and it predicts a 10 years cardiovascular risk. So based on all this, if you have a 10-year risk more than 20, that means you are at a much greater risk for a cardiovascular event, maybe down the line in 10 years. Query score is another one which is very, very validated today. Again, it can predict a CVD event over 10 years. taking into account age, sex, BMI, ethnicity, blood pressure, and cholesterol levels, and various other score engines are available. ProCam is available. QRISK 1 and 2 we have been using, but I think it is the QRISK 3 which is one of the most validated one. A very current publication in 2022 which evaluated QRISK 3 score versus Framingham said that possibly QRISK 3 for our ethnicity is much better than even the Framingham score. And towards the end, I must tell you, type 2 diabetes, because we have seen that even at 10 years, they are at a greater risk for any cardiovascular event. So possibly they have the continuum coming even before the onset of the disease, because they are the one who are likely to have endothelial dysfunction. Moment their micro and macroalbuminuria, they go on a much higher cardiovascular risk for not only developing CKD, but also cardiovascular mortality, maybe MI, stroke, LV remodeling, which then lands up with heart failure and CV death. So it must be viewed as a continuum of the disease. And if you want to cut down on this CV continuum in these patients, reduce CV risk, probably we need to have a good glycemic control, and all other things we need to address by statins, by giving them aspirin if required, a silent ischemia assessment. If they are smokers, they must stop smoking so as to cut down on this overall cardiovascular risk. And this is one of our publication 10 years ago, based on our 15 years data in clinical practice. Me, Dr. Shalini, we hypothesized that it is a micro and a macro which is a continuum. Today it stands absolutely true in 2025 when we say that even if you have a mid-range cardiomyopathy, that can also predict a higher cardiovascular risk. So we said that micro and macro angiopathy are continuum, they are not distinct, and that is what we say that we must look into the clustering of risk factor. If patient has albuminuria, they have dyslipidemia, they have other CV risk, we must pick them early so as to avoid not only in an attempt to get a metabolic, cardio and a renal outcome, which will be much better, not only will avoid a ongoing epidemic of MESEL, which is there today, cirrhosis and ultimately hepatogenous diabetes. We can cut down on the renal composite endpoints, and we can also have better outcomes in terms of cardiovascular disease. So towards then, I must tell you that when we are approaching these patients with a risk management, it is a 4 level of prevention. Primary prevention, which talks about preventing atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease in patients, those who are at a greater risk, only having clustering or risk factor. If you already have a disease, we must prevent a CV event. This is what is secondary prevention. A quaternary prevention is that by doing the risk stratification, either by biomarkers or by risk engine, we must avoid over-treatment, not that every patient must go for a conventional angiography. And if patient already has an established atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, we must prevent the reoccurring of those events, and that boils to a tertiary prevention. And in the end, I told you, it is not alone glycemic control which goes a long way. Probably a much better control of hypertension, a better lipid lowering, and individualized diet and lifestyle plan, and of course looking into the organ protection today. Not only we are trying to prevent heart failure, we are also trying to avoid renal composite endpoints, and fortunately we have drugs today which can address to this issue. I will not go into the details of the drug. Having said that, probably our goals have to be to reduce CV risk by having a multi-pronged approach. It is not only the glycemic control, but many more things which go a long way. Thanks a lot for your patience, Amy, and I'll be happy to answer if there are any questions or remarks.